welcome to hoopslounge.com draft recap with myself, Phil Boileau, Justin Rowan, and Ryan Antonio Henry. All their Twitter handles are under their names. Should be able to see them, but if not, I'll put them in the description. Boys, we just had the 2016 NBA draft. I know not a lot of people are into the deep draft, so we're going to cover the top 10. First, guys, there were a lot of trades. Ryan, since you're last of the party, I'll let you start. Out of all the movings that didn't happen draft-wise, what did you prefer?
That didn't happen, the trades that did not happen.
Oh, sorry. The trades that happened that had nothing to do with the draft. Those like guys that happened before.
Okay, so you got to start off with Derrick Rose going to New York right off the bat like that. I'm not shocked because it was in talks like with Derrick. You know, it was one of those deals where you wanted to see him stay in Chicago, but you knew it was going to come to an end. They just couldn't make him that number one guy. I think he still wants to be that number one guy, and it just wasn't going to happen.
I think with Carmelo Anthony, Kristaps Porzingis and company, but
But here's the thing with that trade to New York now. I think even in his press conference and the way he's been kind of reacting to it, I think he's willing to accept not a lesser role, but I think he's more into a team dynamic now. I think he's coming to terms with the fact that he's not the same MVP from 2011 that he was killing the league and just doing obscene mid. Oh my God! Just going back to 2011 and seeing him cut through lanes with precision and just going to the basket and attacking like that. Derrick Rose is gone, and I think he realizes that, so he's ready to team up with guys and try to go for a championship and bring back some glory to New York.
Mm-hmm. And ironically, I was going to say the same thing. That's what Carmelo Anthony needed to do, to go under the wing of someone else. So they're kind of just coddling each other in New York. And hey, Phil Jackson said they're going to get Kevin Durant, right? Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah.
Justin, I know we spoke about this on another one, but just to quickly recap the Utah Jazz Indiana trade there. General winners all around.
See, honestly, I didn't like the trade from an Indiana perspective originally. I personally like George Hill better. I think he's the better player, although I will admit that they're fairly close. But once they made the trade for Thad Young, I like the move because that kind of signals that they're going for a more up-tempo game, which Jeff Teague is a lot more suited for. I think he can run the pick and roll with Thad Young well. They have a lot of lineup versatility. A lot of what their success coming into next season is going to be determined by Miles Turner, but assuming he progresses, maybe they get some bench depth there. I think they can make a little bit of noise because, when you really look at it, the East was so close last season. They came right down to the wire against Toronto. So I think there's a very thin margin, and given I don't know how the coaching change is going to shake out, but with Jeff Teague, with Thad Young, I think that they're a much better team, and they're suited to play the style that Larry Bird wants them to play.
Absolutely. Now, to kind of transition between the draft and the trades, so we're going to cover the top 10. The 11th overall pick was Arvydas Sabonis' son, another Sabonis. Getting his first name here because I'm the absolute worst. Domantas Sabonis. So he was traded to the OKC Thunder, one of the biggest deals. Serge Ibaka heading to Orlando, finally being that 3-and-D at the 4 that they've so sought after for years.
Wow.
And then you have Oladipo going to match with Russell Westbrook. There's varying opinions on how that's going to work with Sabonis to man up. I guess it makes Durant play the 4 a little bit more. I've heard way different opinions, but most people I've heard of say that OKC won this trade. Ryan, do you agree with that?
I think it's beyond way too early to really say that there's a winner in this deal, simply because you immediately have to go back to the OKC that James Harden was the third man of, because this is basically, I find it's returning to that form, that form that technically went to the NBA Finals, just because, again, Oladipo is such a good ball handler. He can cut, he can create, he can set up, and that's basically what James Harden was for them way back when they did go to the finals. It looks like they're trying to return back to that form, seeing as the Serge Ibaka, it didn't happen. I don't think they actually went back. Yeah, they didn't go back to the finals again with Serge, and they haven't really been close except for this past season. So, I think they've admitted, and they want to see if it's going to work again. And I don't know if it will, just because Russell's kind of a hothead, and I think we all saw that this year. And depending on whether he's going to let somebody else, share the reins with him, because the Oladipo needs the ball in his hand. So how's this going to work?
Okay. Well, Justin, I just posted a video on hoopslounge.com how Colin Howard of the Herd actually said that he expects OKC to be the champions next year. And he thinks these moves, Oladipo, while he shares some characteristics with Harden, he plays way better defense. Maybe a bit better shooter. Sabonis and Steven Adams being those kind of playoff type hustle guys you really want. Maybe this forces Kevin Durant. Do you think both teams have taken an uptake? Because I think in the perfect trade, both teams are a little bit pissed off because they feel they got gypped. And that's how it's kind of an even trade. Because on the surface, Serge Ibaka is essentially what Orlando's been looking for a long time. And they're going to have to decide whether to pony up. And does it make the assets work a little better? I mean, Dion Waiters has to be out of town. Like, a lot of moving pieces there.
Yeah, the trade was weird to me because I don't know what the incentive was. Like, I theoretically get the incentive for both teams. I'll say this trade makes a lot more sense for the Thunder if Durant is leaving. Because then you got Oladipo, Sabonis, I really like. I think that's a good piece. Obviously, Oladipo is an upgrade defensively over Dion Waiters. But you look at Oladipo last year, you're talking about 16 points per game. He averaged 16, 5, and 4, shooting 44% and 35% from three. Waiters, his last year in Cleveland, was 16, 3, and 3 on 44 and 37% shooting from three. So offensively, we're talking about really similar players here. And if Oladipo doesn't get that outside shot going, granted, he's obviously going to have easier shots playing alongside Westbrook and Durant. But if he can't get that outside shot going, I don't think that solves a lot of their problems. They obviously have a logjam now at center. While I really like Sabonis, there isn't anything that he can really do offensively that Enes Kanter can't do. Steven Adams is obviously a big part of their future, a bigger part now that Ibaka is out. As far as Orlando's fit, I think Ibaka works really well against or next to Vucevic. You finally have that stretch four that can cover up for him defensively, although now that raises questions about Aaron Gordon. And if Ibaka leaves this summer, they just gave up a ton of assets for a guy that's on an expiring deal. I don't think Ibaka gets them over the hump and gets them into the playoff picture. If Ibaka was thinking about leaving OKC, one of the motivations for making this move, why is he going to stay in Orlando? So I think there's a lot of questions. I think Ryan had the right answer there, that it's tough to determine a winner here. We need to see how the rest of free agency kind of pans out. And we need to see if Ibaka stays next summer.
Okay, that's fair enough. But just to finish off in this trade, Ryan, if you have to pick, is OKC now better or worse? And same for Orlando. Just a simple answer.
To be honest, I think Orlando is going to be better. Just because Serge, the reason why he was potentially going to leave OKC in the first place is because he wanted to be that number one guy. Apparently, he's been ready to take the reins of a team. I don't know if he can do it because it's all sort of happened since he's developed this crazy mid-range / three-pointer over the last couple of years. But is that going to be enough for him to lead a very young Orlando Magic team, which does have a bright future? But I don't see Serge as the number one guy. So I do think they'll be better than they've been, technically.
Okay, so they're better, and is OKC better or worse than they were before this trade?
That's the one I can't judge. I really can't judge it. We're gonna have to find out and wait to see.
Depends how much Adams improves. Obviously, depends if Durant stays. I think offensively, it's a bit of a lateral move, if not a step back. Um,
Yeah.
it's really, really tough to say. I think they're banking on the defense improving. But overall, I think their offense, some of the issues there, the lack of movement, I don't think this solves any of their problems. We'll see if they keep Ursan Ilyasova, but his role in that offense would certainly be interesting.
You see, there's one thing you guys both haven't brought up, which I thought was the main point of this trade, is to actually make Durant play the four a whole lot more, with Andre Robertson potentially playing some three. Do you guys see that being the overall point because they saw how effective they were with Durant at the four?
If that happens, as I said before, Oladipo better develop that three ball because Russ isn't a good 3-point shooter. He shoots about 29% there. If Oladipo's shooting 33% from three, and then you got Robertson, who you don't even need to factor in offensively, that makes it really, really tough, even with Durant at the four. You can't only have one guy on your starting lineup that can shoot. We saw that fail in Milwaukee, and I don't know if that's going to be the direction. Obviously, Durant needs to play more for, but overall, I don't think that's the way they go starting off games.
All right. Well, there was some interesting trades and a couple of trades that didn't happen, which we were talking a bit off camera. A couple of the ones that were kind of expected, maybe involving some picks. Boston, we were kind of thinking maybe they would trade for a veteran. We spoke about some names in Philadelphia, maybe Okafor, maybe Noel. We also heard Jimmy Butler being tied to both Boston for that number 3 pick and potentially the Timberwolves for the number 5 pick and some other assets, including Zach LaVine, which never panned out.